Welcome to the Mingo and Karen Show, the podcast. We're excited that you've chosen to explore the topic of life with us. All of us are here for a reason, so let's venture on this journey together. You know, life has become so kind of instant, and we want everything fast, and we want everything to be done and, quickly, even all the way down to you think about texting, right? If you text the wrong word, your phone typically autocorrects. Well, in life, it's not like that. Life doesn't autocorrect. You have to be intentional about what you're doing in your life. Mm-hmm. And you have to know that life is not going to automatically correct itself, that if you want more out of your life, then you have to be able to know what it is that you want and move through your life in order to make it happen. That because you make the wrong decision, or you decide to go a different route that's not the right route, your life is not going to autocorrect and make you go in the right direction or make you make the right decision. You've got to start to recognize what the issues are in your life that you're trying to seek autocorrection for. So many times, and I think I've talked to a lot of people who, and including just us, don't know how to get in their own game of their own life, right? And because they don't know how to do that, they find themselves either staying stagnant and stuck in a place, or they find themselves looking for other things to help them correct what they need to correct within themselves. And so I think that we have to see what it is that's going on with us in order to be able to correct our lives and be able to live the life that we desire to live. We talked about desire and discipline before, and understanding how vital it is for us to be present in our own lives has to do with the consciousness that we need to be made more aware of just for ourselves in order to get it. And so with that said, like I said in the beginning, life doesn't autocorrect. We've got to correct the things in our lives that we are not pleased with in order for us to live the life we want to live.
Well, we had a friend tell us, it was like late 1999, early 2000s, and I'm applying what he told us back then to what you're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. And he talked about there are three different kind of people, mm-hmm, in his opinion, in life. They're planners, researchers, and doers. So you start thinking about life, the first thing you got to do is figure out and be honest with yourself, which one of those subgroups do you fall in? Because if you're a planner, you're always planning something.
Well, that's true.
If you're a researcher, you over-research things and talk yourself out of it. Just because you're a doer, which I am a self-proclaimed doer, doesn't mean what you're doing is going to always work out. Right?
Yeah.
So when you start talking about your life, we got one. Can't go buy another life.
Yep.
So it would be beneficial to accept what life you have. Mm-hmm. Be appreciative of what you have right now, but also have enough faith in yourself to know if you want more, you can do more.
Yeah.
Don't research for 30 years and then 30 years later plan and then think you're going to do after those 60 years. It can be done, but you don't have to do it that way.
Yeah, you wasted time.
You waste a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you to walk off your job tomorrow.
Yeah.
I've heard people say that. Step out on faith and walk out on your job. All right. How's that working for you, Dr. Phil? How's that working for you?
Yeah.
Some people it works for. Now, because there's a gentleman, I'm not going to say his name, but there's a gentleman here.
We know.
He has a restaurant, and he walked off of his job, and his restaurants are doing fabulous.
Yeah.
He just opened his third one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And having a restaurant is not an easy business.
It's not easy at all.
But he knew what he wanted for his life.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning and you think about your life and you get sad, you are definitely a planner or a researcher. You shouldn't get sad about what you want for your life. Mm-hmm. If you want to say you want to discover something, you're an inventor, right? Mm-hmm. But by profession, you are an educator. Mm-hmm. Unless you create some inventions, whether on your job or at home, you probably will never be an inventor. Mm-hmm. You can do both. And like we tell our young adult children, that you do it till one outweighs the other.
Right.
But if the one you want, if you see your life, if you see yourself, you shouldn't look at award shows or look on TV or listen to podcasts or whatever it is and get sad about somebody else doing it. They are doers.
Yeah.
But think about it though. You don't have to pick one or the other. You should use all of them simultaneously. You should definitely research what you want to do.
Right.
Just because you have the desire to do it, you should research it. Can this work? Then you plan on how you can do it, and then you do it.
And I think for sometimes in our lives we tend to think that, oh, it'll just work itself out, right? Oh, it'll be fine. It'll work out how it's supposed to. But then there are other times where it's important to be plugged in. It is important to understand that it's not gonna, some things don't just automatically come together. Some things don't just automatically fix themselves. You have to, as you said, when you, even listening to you talk about planning, researching, and doing, right? They really do have to work together.
Yep.
Because if you're doing something without researching or planning, what are you really doing?
It's like a formula.
Yeah. If you're planning something and you're planning something that you haven't even researched, how can you do it? Or if you're researching something that you don't even have a plan to move forward in, how can you do it? They all work together. You need all three in order to be effective. And understanding those elements of what it takes to have the best life that you can have is important for all of us. I think that by us being here, just by design, that we're here in this moment, in this time, in our lives, it's important for us to know and understand that we are here for a purpose. We are here and we have a reason to be here. Like you said, something just so profound is that if you spend so much time in one element where you're not making sure that they all are moving,
working together,
then you end up finding yourself in a place where you end up really becoming so overwhelmed that you're not planning anything, you're not researching anything, and you're not doing anything. And so then you begin to live an unfulfilled life.
Yeah. And
then you're expecting life to get it together. No, you're the person that has to get it together. You're the person that has to step into what it is that you're supposed to step into. You're the person who has to say, hey, I got to own this for my own life. I have to begin to empower myself. I have to begin to understand that I can do more than what I'm doing right now.
Walk and chew gum.
Yeah, and you have a burning desire in you to do it. You have that thing, something in you telling you, hey, I can do this, I can be this, I can have this, and yet you sit in it like frustrated because you don't even know how to get to the place that you want to get to do it.
Have you ever encountered somebody who they can motivate people to make them think they can fly, but they can't do that for themselves?
Yeah.
When you said the thing about autocorrect, I don't believe it's an autocorrection on your life. I just believe that we have more than one opportunity to get it right. Because you only have one life. See, autocorrection is designed to make you not look foolish when you're texting.
Right.
But a lot of times it makes you look foolish.
Right.
Because the word you're trying to use and the way you're using it, it's autocorrect. You hit send and you're like, oh, my bad, typo. I was going too fast. You find yourself apologizing for making a mistake. That's the thing about life. We learn from our mistakes. Or we should. We should say, okay, I did this way and it didn't work. Why would I turn around tomorrow and do it the same way? Do I think the result is going to change? And I know, like in research and trial and error, sometimes you have to do the same thing over and over and over, but you tweak it just a little bit. That's the key to it. I don't believe anybody should do the exact same thing that gets a bad result the same way every time.
Yeah.
To me, that's just insanity. You have to tweak it if it's not just but a little bit, just a little bit. You make something different about it because you're looking for a different result. Then I believe once you get it right, you check your work, you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. Like, think about some of the greatest inventions of George Washington Carver with the peanut.
Yeah. All those experiments,
but once he got them right,
they're
still doing it the same way.
Yeah.
He didn't have to autocorrect. he learned from his mistakes. And I think that's what we need to do with our lives. I mean, everybody's life starts off a different way. That's why I never judge people by the way they look, by what they have, where they come from, the way they speak. I just don't do that. That's just not a part of my makeup or when I meet a person, because I am not so big and mighty that I get to tell somebody what to do with their life. Right. Even my own kids. It is my job, if they ask advice, to be a good example, to say, hey, I did this wrong, but you might have a different way to do it. So I'm not going to knock what they want to do in their life based on my lack of my mistakes. I just feel like we lay it out there to them because they know we tell them the truth, the raw, uncut truth. Everybody who knows us knows that about us. Right. So when you start talking about auto correction, you just keep in mind that you have to be plugged in. You can't autocorrect something you don't even know what it is. Right. You see what I'm saying? Absolutely. You have to stay plugged in. And when I say plugged in could be like a buzzword. Some people say, well, what does plugged in mean? That means being present in your own life in layman's terms. Be plugged in your life, not plugged in Johnny business and Susie business and this person business and that this person's business. Be plugged into your own life so you can be an example, because a lot of times what you do will go way further than what you say to people. That's why kids watch you. And we've seen little children mimic, like my granddaughter can mimic my oldest son so well, it is hilarious. It is hilarious. She sits and she watches him. And he can say, hey, don't do that and do this. And then she'd be like, And then she watch him and mimics him to a T. That's a great example on the simplest level that people watch you and they see what you do.
And I think you have to pay attention to, like you said, getting plugged into yourself is not being absent in your life. Not being absent in your own life. Being aware of what you're doing. What is your goal? What is it that you're wanting to do in your life, and to understand and to know that this is where I am, this is where I need to be, this is what, maybe even some of the things that you learned from, that you made mistakes in, right? Being plugged in is an awareness of, and it's an intentional move to direct your life towards what it is that you want to accomplish. I think that sometimes when you think about not being plugged in, I'll say for me, for example, let's just use an example. If I wanted I want a new wardrobe, right? But if I don't go in and look at the stuff that I have in my closet that I don't like, then I won't know what direction I want to go in moving forward. I have to go in and know, okay, this is not the direction that I want. I know it sounds silly just on the simplest level, but in order for me to know where I'm going, it's such an old adage. In order for me to know where I'm going, I got to know where I came from. And I think that when you think about being plugged into your life, look at the roles that you play. Look at what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to be. I want to be who I've always, I think, known that I am on the inside. Okay. And because I didn't know how to, it's almost like compartmentalizing my life, right? So I've always known what I wanted to be, but she was just somewhere else. Somewhere I don't even know, because it's always been in me to be who I'm supposed to be, right? Yeah. But I got so caught up in being a mom, being a wife, being a whatever, being a real estate agent. Except you. Every role except me. And so being plugged into myself has taught me that my life is not going to fix itself.
On the simplest level, how we talk about we're a common sense couple. Think about being plugged in. We love examples. We're example people. We're story people. That's how we get our point across. Think about you go buy a flat screen TV. Men can relate to this. Women can relate to this too. So don't disregard that. Yeah. So let's say you buy a big screen TV for whatever reason, for a movie, for a game. that TV will not work until you plug it in. I don't care how pretty the decor looks in the room. I don't care how centered it is. I don't care how nice the surround sound you have with it. It has to be plugged in. In order for you to activate your life, you have to get plugged in to some kind of source. That source can be whatever you want it to be. It don't have to be my source. It doesn't have to be Karen's source. It doesn't even have to be your mother or father's source. It has to be your source. What fuels you? What gives you the reasoning to get plugged into your life? Right. So that means if you're not happy with your life, what's one little thing you could do tomorrow to make you smile about your life just for a few minutes? If we have 24 hours in a day and you work for 8, right? And then let's say you rest for 8. Just do what you want to do for 8 and you sleep for 8. What can you do in those 8 that's for you that will make you feel a little bit better about your life? Now, there may be some people walking around who the life is just beautiful. Everything is clicking on all cylinders, but I promise you, that person has a story and they had to get plugged in. It's just that by the time you see their story and witness them being plugged in, you're seeing today. Tyler Perry said it best. He said, you see me today, but I remember 13 years ago.
Ooh, when he was sleeping in cars.
And I remember, he said he remembers when he was the ticket guy and playing the multiple roles, and his first show didn't work out so well.
Yeah, after I think he said he spent like $9,000
of money that he had to raise.
Income tax, yeah,
right?
And income tax and rate, yeah, for sure.
Right? But look at him today.
Yeah.
Got an exit named after him on the freeway.
Yeah.
Bought a military base.
Yeah.
He's plugged in his life. And there are so many other examples. It's not always about money being plugged in your life. There are people who went through bad situations and they rose from it.
Yeah, they found that power.
You remember that we watched this episode, I can't remember which talk show it was on, but it was the guy was planting evidence, the police officer. He ended up planting evidence and he sent the guy to jail. And then they found out what the guy was doing and he confessed that he was doing that. And then the guy got out of jail and they end up having to partner up on something. You remember that?
Yes.
See what I'm saying? It doesn't always have to be money. It could just be a life movement. And imagine what position the guy who got wrongfully done, he had to have forgiveness. The guy who he did wrong had to have humility, because he didn't know what this gentleman, he didn't know how this was going to turn out, but it worked itself out.
Right.
And they even talked about how when they first encountered each other, it was weird. It was like
tension.
Hey, this can pop off at any second.
Yeah.
But they fought through that because why? Both of them were plugged into their situations. This man said, okay, this is my redemption story. This other guy said, this is my humility story. I did wrong. Let me tell you what I did wrong. So when you start talking about being plugged in, figure out the source before you ever want to, like the analogy about the TV. You have to decide on what wall you want it on, what looks best, but there has to be one thing there. See, our TV can be hanging in one spot, but it might not be the spot where the plug is. It has to be plugged in.
It's intentional.
It could be on this short wall and you're like, I really like this short wall. It looks best over there. The furniture looks best. But you don't want extension cords all on the rugs and all this kind of stuff running across your house. You want it to look neat and uniform.
Right.
So figure out your source. Figure out your source of where your power comes from. Some people use workout to channel their energy, to give them that motivation. Because their motivation is every time they get on that scale, in their case, it's going down. Then sometimes it goes up. And when it begins to go up in the other direction, they have to remember the source. Keep pushing forward. You know what I'm saying? And just keep it going and understand that I am present in my life. I am plugged into my life.
Yeah. And I wasn't plugged in for a lot of years of my own life. And I am now. And I'm excited about it. I mean, to be aware, that awareness all on its own just makes the difference. When you talked about what wall to hang the television on and not knowing that or not hanging it on a wall that didn't have a plug.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. How many things have we done in our lives that don't even they're not in alignment?
They don't line up.
They do not line up at all. They don't make sense. It doesn't match. You know, you just kind of haphazardly going through life saying, oh, well, let me just do this way, or let me do that way. We don't plan for it, and then we're looking dumbfounded when it turns into a disaster. But it's because we weren't plugged in. We didn't have enough foresight to say, this is how this is going to be. This is how it's going to be affected. Or, you know, hanging, oh yeah, that's a nice wall to hang it on, but where you going to plug it?
Yeah.
You know, and we're not, I think that not being plugged into our own lives results in that. And I also know that it took me many, many years. Oh my gosh, I was such a horrible decision maker. Jesus, I mean, like, because I didn't know how to have direction, I didn't know how to make good decisions. And so I would always end up having to try to think that life was going to autocorrect the mistakes that I made.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Life says, hey, you live me. And so you got to fix that.
Yeah.
You got to fix this. And so then I began to, once you get tired of making so many mistakes and you get tired of going around the same mountain over and over and over again, that's when you start to say, hey, this is not working. So if I know I already walked through this door, I know what's behind that door. So then I started to live my life intentionally. And living my life with intention means that instead of reacting first, or instead of acting first, I need to think about what am I doing? If what I'm doing, okay, so if I know, I'll give you an example. Let's just say if my desire is to go to Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
But I take 20, I'm going to end up in Birmingham.
Yeah.
I'm not going to end up in Montgomery.
You're not.
I got to go 85 south.
Yeah.
And so, and that's for the reference for all the people in Atlanta. So understanding that, hey, I have a destination that I want to get to. And in order for me to get to that destination, I have to take a particular route.
Yeah.
I can't just take any route. If I do, I end up on side roads, going to places I didn't intend on going to, ended up in other cities. I'm on a whole other different side of the state. It just results in something that is not necessary. And I've ended up in so many places in my life, especially in our 20s, where it was unnecessary because I wasn't living intentionally. I didn't have a destination to go to. And in life, it doesn't mean that you physically have to have a destination to go to. A destination can be, hey, I have a plan. This is the result that I want because of this plan, and I'm going to get there. Versus if you don't have a plan at all, you're just kind of winging it and going through life so you don't know where you're going to end up. It's important to be intentional about our desires, about our destination that we want to end up in. We have to be more intentional about how we live our life and how we get to the place we want to get to.
Well, you know, I had a conversation with Cortland. And for people who don't know, Cortland is our oldest twin son. And he and I talked yesterday. It's crazy when you're talking about being intentional. We just had a conversation about this. You know, as a child, you know, I was a baseball player. And I told him, the way I live my life, and I think it would probably be good for him, is that you live your life like a baseball player.
Okay.
See, as a baseball player, you already know what you're going to do if the ball is hit to you.
Okay.
So it's a proactive sport. You already understand if there's a man on first base, I'm playing shortstop, and the ball is hit to me at shortstop. The first thing I'm going to do is check the runner at first when I get the ball. Then I'm going to take it to second base. And then it's the second baseman's job to try to turn a double play and get the guy at first. I already know that. So there's every scenario you could think of, a baseball player already knows what he's going to do. He in softball, she already knows what they're going to do before the ball is hit to them. Now, the polar opposite of that is reactive. Basketball, football, even though they run plays, the defense is set in a formation in football to be reactive to what the offense is going to do. So that means that you're intentional to a certain extent because you can only control. You don't know what the quarterback is going to do with the ball. You're trying to figure it out. You're trying to be proactive, but your job is to be reactive. So once you figure out what it is, that's when you make your decision.
Gotcha.
So you take that and put that in life. Being intentional says, I'm going to get up this morning and I'm going to tell myself something good when I look in the mirror. But you got to believe it. And then when you believe it and then you go into your job or you go into your own business or whatever it is you do, you carry that belief in that I'm going to do something good today. Right? That's proactive. But if you wake up in the morning, grouch you when you get out of bed, grouch you when you get to your place of employment or your own business, everybody's going to react based on the way you come in.
Right.
So you change your whole environment. So what's wrong with being intentional? That's not a bad thing.
It's not.
Being intentional in your life is saying that I can have more.
Yeah.
I can do more. I can be more. I can see more. I can hear more. I can feel more. I can taste more. What is wrong with that?
Yeah.
I didn't eat oysters when I first met you. Right? And you buy a dozen and I barely taste the half of one. But now
you can eat your own
I eat my own dozen.
Yeah.
Right? So that I grew in that area of my life.
Right.
I intentionally wanted to be more than what I was exposed to as a child.
Wow.
And I intentionally want to advance my palate. So our kids was eating sushi at 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Because we wanted their palates to be more advanced.
Yeah.
See, you had a parent that exposed you. You say your dad did that kind of stuff, so that advanced your palate. So you met me and advanced my palate. So when our kids came along, we advanced their palate. That's intentional.
Yeah.
You see that growth?
Yeah.
So we're in control of what we're intentional about. Be proactive in your life and not reactive.
Absolutely. And, just to kind of piggyback on that, even what you said with the kids, when you look at the progression of it all, it's because we looked at what was and decided that we wanted more.
Yeah.
We could have been stuck.
We could have.
I grew up eating soul food every day.
I grew up eating fast food.
Yeah. And we could have just found the balance in that and been parallel with, not parallel, been where we just stayed in that place, right?
I get it.
And so
stagnant.
Yeah, we would. Definitely. So then we raise our kids where one day they eating soul food and the next day they eating out, fast food. But we chose to try something different. We chose to stretch ourselves beyond what we were used to, beyond our own comfort zones. Lateral is the word I was going for, not parallel, but to be in those lateral places where we said, well, hey, this is, we turned out fine because we were here and we're going to leave, we want our kids to be here as well. I think because we have stretched ourselves and we will continue to stretch ourselves, we're going to live the life that we are supposed to live, the life that we're designed to live. I think, when you talked about the planning and the research and the doing, we've planned.
Yeah.
We've researched.
Yep. And now we're doing.
Because life is not going to autocorrect this for us. We're intentional about our desires. We're intentional about our lives. We're intentional about even our love. Oh my gosh, we've always loved each other. We didn't even know it could get better than it was.
Yeah.
And because we are more intentional about how we feel about each other, how we treat each other, what we want to be with each other, it's changed our lives. And so get in your own game.
Yeah.
Of your own life.
It's
and
good,
as Mingo said,
your own game.
As Mingo said with the baseball, it's time now to stop being reactive, to be proactive.
Yep.
And not let life
have his way.
And just be on autocorrect.
Yep.
Happy relationship building.
Happy relationship building.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. You can find us on Facebook, on our Love is Powerful Stuff page, and at Mingo and Karen on Twitter and Instagram. Happy relationship building.